More assignments due for the
So I
weekend.
think the last one I saw was for due on Thursday, or which would be today.
This one's due today, right?
Yeah.
So you have one due on Sunday,
Okay.
and that's gonna be what we're gonna talk about tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. All right. So we're still looking at solving radical equations, but these equations have more than one radical, and this one has two radicals. All right. So if you look at the steps that you wrote down yesterday, the first step said to isolate one of the radicals, right? So we pick one. I picked any of them. Since this has a minus sign, let me just add it to both sides. Does that make sense? So I'm gonna add this radical to both sides, because step one that you read in those notes said isolate the radical. So I'm gonna add this to both sides. So we add that to both sides. Alright, so this cancels. So now on our left-hand side, we're left with the square root of 3m plus 1, and that equals 1 plus the square root of m plus 4. Alright. Now, how do I get rid of this radical? What did our notes say? What was the second thing we did yesterday?
Raise it to the power.
We raise it to the power of the index. What's my index?
2.
2. Right? So we raise both sides, we square both sides. Right? We square both sides. And remember, when you square both sides, what's going to happen is the square and the square root, they're going to cancel each other out. So that's why we did that. Alright, so you're left with 3m plus 1. I don't need parentheses anymore, that's good. 3m plus 1, that's equal to, how many copies of this am I going to have? 2. And that's like, let's see if this looks familiar here. Does that look familiar? That is that first problem that I gave you in class. The one I said, these are the skills needed to succeed today. This is exactly what we're working on. So what am I gonna have to do on this side? Foil it, right? I have to multiply it all out. So make sure that's clear in your notes. All right, let me write this higher. All right, so we're gonna have 3m plus 1. And on my right hand side, I'm gonna have to FOIL everything. All right. So if I go over here, am I still in the camera? Will you be able to see
Just
this?
your hand.
Okay, cool.
Right there.
My hand will be famous. All right. So I FOIL this. So I get 1 times 1. Bam. 1. Then I get 1 times the square root of m plus 4. So I get 1 square root of m plus 4. And then I multiply the square root of m plus 4 times 1. So I get plus 1 square root of m plus 4. And then what's going to happen when I multiply the square root of m plus 4 times the square root of m plus 4? The square roots cancel, right? And then I'm going to get m plus 4. Right? Because the square root of m plus 4 times the square root of m plus 4, that's just m plus 4. All right. What's next? What do I do here now? Combine like terms. Combine like terms. So we get 3m plus 1 equals, I got 1, I have 4 more, so I got 5. I have an m still floating around there. And then how many square roots of m plus 4s do I have? 2. So I have plus 2 square root of m plus 4. Well, what's the problem with this? I still have what in the equation? I still have a radical, right? So now I have to go back to that very first step. What do I do when I have a radical? Isolate it. So write that down. Isolate the radical. Make sure that's clear in your notes. So I'm gonna have to move all this to the other side. So that 5, I'm gonna have to subtract the 5. The m, I'm gonna have to subtract the m. Because we want to isolate the radical. We want that radical all by itself. All right, so we get 2m minus 4. And then we end up with 2 square root of m plus 4. Is the radical isolated? Is it all by itself? No, I still got that 2. So how do I get rid of that 2? Divide it. So we divide everything. We divide everything by 2. Right? So we end up with m minus 2. So these 2's cancel. Equals the square root of m plus 4. So you could already see, look at the story we told. Right? And we're still not finished. So make sure, you take a step, you verify, did I do everything right? Because if we make one little mistake, you forget one negative sign, bam, everything's gone. All right, how do I get rid of that square root now? Square both sides. So we're gonna square both sides. So when you square both sides, how many copies are we gonna write down? 2. So we get m minus 2, m minus 2, and that's gonna equal m plus 4. Go ahead and distribute everything. So we're gonna get m squared minus 2m minus 2m plus 4 equals m plus 4. Is this linear or is it quadratic? It's quadratic. So when it's quadratic, we generally what? Set it equal to 0, right? So we need to set this equal to 0. So I'm going to combine my like terms here. So I'm going to get m squared minus 4m plus 4 equals m plus 4. And then let me write this a little higher in my next step. All right, any questions so far? All right, step 49. You told me to set this equal to 0. So let's do that. Minus m minus m minus 4 minus 4. So we're going to set our right hand side equal to 0. So we got 0 on this side, and when we combine our like terms here, what are we going to get on the left hand side? Good, m squared minus 5m. This one we actually lucked out. And the reason we lucked out is because the factoring is going to be easy. Because what do they have in common? What's my greatest common factor? M. So I factor out the m, and I'm left with m minus 5 equals 0. So what do I do with each one of those products? You set m equal to 0. So here you set m equal to 0, that's one of my products. And the m minus 5, I'm going to set that equal to 0. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And I get m equals 5. So these are my potential solutions, right? These are potential answers. I say potential because I still need to what? Plug them in. I need to check it. So I need to plug them back in to the original. All right. So let me do the one that does not work for you. All right. So I'm gonna plug that in. So go ahead and copy that down. And then make a note, make a note, make a note. Always plug it back into the original, because you might make a mistake along the way, so you wanna use that original equation. So make sure you plug your solutions one at a time. You plug them back into the original. All right, so let's look at that original problem. And the one that I'm gonna plug in, the first number I'm gonna plug in, I'll just do the one that's not gonna work, is gonna be 0. And you're never gonna know which one's not gonna work. You just gotta do it. So I'm gonna plug in 0. So I get 3 times 0 plus 1 minus the square root of 0 plus 4 equals 1. So this is gonna go away, right? And you're left with just the 1 minus the square root of 4 equals 1. Well, the square root of 1 is 1. Square root of 4 is 2. So we end up with -1 equals 1. Obviously, that's not true. So what we do is we go and cross out that 0. 0 does not work. So where you saw that over there, cross that out. What would we say if both of them didn't work? That there's what?
No solution.
That there's no solution. Be ready for that too. All right. Questions, questions, questions. So follow these easy 57 steps and you're done. All right. So let me give you